Welcome to tonight's LX Views. This is the Burtonwood issue with commentary. Let's get right to lawn and garden. So here we have an example of a plain lawn. The neighborhood is showing that there are a lot of trees, but here they've cleared out a lawn. They have some interesting hedging right before the base of the house. Here's one where they have some integrated trees and lawn. I like this in that there's dappling of the sunshine, which keeps the whole area cool. Um, Probably requires some maintenance in terms of insects, but uh, I think it pays for itself in terms of cooling. And I think it looks great. It's cool. It's very informal. This one caught my eye here because they're using vines as erosion control. I live near a park where they have just set up hay bales to control the erosion. And I'd love to see something like this that looks a little more natural. But it's doing the same thing. It's mounted halfway up on a clay berm, and I'm assuming that it catches the erosion that comes off of that lawn further back. You can see behind the trees, which are very large and mature, I might add. This one I thought was interesting. It's sort of cottage in the woods. Really green lawn, almost golf course green, with this privacy at one time hedge. Now I'm guessing it's a full-on orchard, which then opens again into another fairway view, which nice in certain times they provide nice light, but also good privacy. This is an example of a lawn with privacy trees in front. The lawns in this neighborhood are just very large. I think from what I understand, the typical lot size is about 1 acre. What I like here is the split between the ivy and the vines, which are kind of lower maintenance and grow well under shade cover, as well as the lawn in the front, which probably provide a feeling of openness and airiness in those main picture rooms in the front. Really nicely done. And then this one I think could win the Lawn and Garden Award for the whole city, but potentially. It's in the running. Here we see a path that beckons you forward, several different kinds of flowering plants, as well as leafy plants, multiple stories involved. We have the ground level with ferns and flowers, mid-level with like, I don't know, some sort of tree. I don't want to say what it is off the top of my head. More of those paths, ornamental grasses in the back, some sculpture, some magnolia for privacy. And this garden goes on and on. It's a true work of landscape architecture art, in my opinion. And I love the pairing of the fern with the flowers here. There's some sculpture back behind there. And I didn't wander in. Maybe I could have. I don't really know. Maybe next time I will. But and then I think the garden continues on to this sculpture here as well, which is pleasant. Here's an example of just a sort of historical lawn. It's so big. I wanted to document it just because it's so big. Um, there are some trees over the driveway, drive-through driveway. All right, let's take a look at this neighborhood by scooter. So Burtonwood's off Monroe Road. It's near a proposed transit corridor, transit stop. I was talking to somebody who said it was developed in the 60s and the mid 50s by some local business folks. They had a desire to have 1 acre lots. And what's really unique about it is it's a big circle. We're going from the east to the west via the south. Everything's grown in at this point. The trees are huge and gigantic. There's a collection of mid-century architecture. We'll get into it. You'll see it. But it's on a hill. Behind it is some Norfolk. I think the Norfolk Southern Rail. I don't know who the rail operator is. There's some rail tracks behind it that go out, I guess, to logging country out of the National Forest. But they connect to the rail depot uptown. And it's sort of cut off from everything. It's on Monroe Road. This is completely car dependent. But if you have a car, it's in the East Mecklenburg School District, from what I understand. It's near Independence as well, and some of the proposed, I think it's Convention Station. I don't know what the name of it is, but it is. There's a bit of an edge city growing there now. Independence one day may have a transit corridor going down the middle of it in the form of light rail. So It would be, if not walkable, certainly scootable. Well, we have bonus content at the end of this where you can see the scooting. But again, just another mid-century neighborhood in Charlotte where you have really interesting architecture. But again, the difference here was this was developed with just really, really large lots, like 1 acre lots. Um, and that allows for interesting gardens, really like almost over the top mid-century homes. These ranches are just so large and flat. And at this point, 60, 70 years later, the canopy has really grown in well. I think when they built this, they had looked at some of the, I want to say mistakes, but some of the compromises that had to be made for what were luxury neighborhoods that had really great carriageways going through them, which had then been adapted for car use. And they made the decision, we want that same grand carriageway field, but there's absolutely no way we want it to be something that people pass through to get to the other neighborhoods because we just don't want to deal with the street noise. So they built this, is my guess. And I was chatting. So I looked at, so my spouse and I have looked at this neighborhood historically. We've been in Charlotte on and off for about a decade. And we stumbled into Burtonwood, maybe running. I used to have this convertible. We'd drive around in my convertible and just explore various neighborhoods. And we stumbled into here because mid-centuries were so hot in the teens. And we wanted to just check it out. And this street here, I think, is where the really good collection of mid-centuries are. You look on the left and on the right. As you get lower on, you'll see just some have butterfly roofs, some have, some of them flat roofs. They're all gigantic in terms of like length. And but not a sidewalk. Not that you need a sidewalk. So on the left, there's one. I just love the coloration on that. We'll get to it later. I don't want to jump the shark here. It's just a pleasant place, right? But it's kind of small, unique. I don't know how many total homes there are in the Burtonwood development, but you can see it's a circle with two streets inset in between it. And I guess it continues across the street onto Monroe, but I'm not sure that was developed at the same time as this particular neighborhood. But it was pleasant. It was a hot day. I had to have the car worked on. That's what brought me over here in the first place. The Subaru dealership is nearby in terms of scooter, and I wanted to have the car looked at, so that's what I did. Now we're doubling back. So we did one of the inner streets. I think we're gonna do one of the outer streets now. One of the things that jumps out at me, this cross street here, we're gonna go on. It's much quieter than the one we're just on with the sort of the more showpiece mid-century homes, but this is quieter. So there's trade-offs, right? I'm not sure if that's reflective of a time when Monroe Road was just sort of a country lane. You have to remember in the 1950s, Charlotte and even in the 60s may have had 250,000 people like living in the whole county. So this was pretty far out back then. I'm sure there was some anticipation that the city would continue to grow because I believe this is in the old Sharon Township. It might be in the Crab Orchard Township, but it was in one of the adjacent townships. It wasn't in one of the third ring townships. And it's hard to imagine. Charlotte Township itself is pretty large. It's hard to imagine urban development extending more than 3 towns across, when historically what has been there is just fields and forest. So whatever the case, Monroe Road, which goes out to the town of Monroe, which also has a historic collection of homes I'd love to document at some point or another. Well, I believe other folks have documented as well, perhaps not with the same commentary as I would provide. Not that mine's really informed. I'm just kind of a novice, but may have been 2 lanes. It's 4 lanes now. Not only is it 4 lanes, it's 4 lanes and it's 45 miles per hour, or maybe it's 35, but people do 45 on it. And there's just a lot of road noise. And at that speed, even with electric cars, it'll always be loud. So maybe in some future where there's just less traffic. So here we are in the middle of the day. It was still loud. But you can see there's not a ton of traffic, but it's just so wide that folks treat it like a highway. Anyway, we're coming up on the sign, the Burtonwood sign, with that tree logo, which I think is pretty cool. So now we're gonna go get ready to take a look at some houses. Let's start with the mid-century moderns, which really I think Burtonwood can make its name in. Here's one. I think this is the showpiece. So I actually spoke with a gentleman with the mid-century with the blue door, and I believe this is it. It reminds me of where I went to high school. So I went to high school in the Northeast. It was in a building that was built in the mid 50s. It belonged in California. The building was in a Massachusetts winter. It was just cold, but it was beautiful. There was floor to ceiling glass in the cafeteria. Every classroom overlooked a courtyard which just had plant life in it. So it led itself to just great serene contemplation. And I think a similar situation might be underway here, and that these folks have this mid-century, clearly can see from one end to the other through it from the street, and it's just a serene place to contemplate life. Great yard, dappled sunlight, large. I think it's adjacent to a small brook or stream, so it's probably interesting to look at after some precipitation. This is almost across the street from it. This is your sort of more classic flat roof. I think it's a butter flat roof. I just love it. It looks like something of the Flintstones in many ways. And then it has that flat roof that kind of slowly slopes towards the carport with great brickwork. It's been maintained over the years. Really earthy tones, warm. It just gives me an embrace as I walk past it. You know, I really thank them for maintaining it and doing such an interesting job. Were I in that, the only thing I would do potentially to modernize it, I would consider a living roof. I think a living roof, an extensive one, not an intensive one, on top of that could just put it over the top. Here is one that's undergoing renovation. I actually had to wait for the renovation truck to move in front of this. This is more your classic ranch, painted brick, painted brown brick, but look at that picture window, right? There's never any traffic on Burtonwood, and if there is traffic, you know who it is. So you don't really struggle with the same privacy concerns you would in other neighborhoods. And you could just really enjoy that front room, enjoy that overlook of your lawn. Here's another one. I think this is on the other side of the development. I didn't get too close to it. I was just impressed by how large it is. I don't think the camera really does it justice. So I'm filming this on a scooter, and I'm just looking at it, and we're going onwards of 20 seconds on like an e-scooter trying to get by it. I mean, that thing is huge. I love the windows up top. They probably let in great light. And then here's a mid-century, I think it's an apartment. So in Charlotte, every corner lot theoretically can be a duplex, and they did that here. I like the door, the green door. I think is fun, playful. I do think it's a duplex. I think there's stuff on both floors, but I wanted to document it. This is one of those ones, duplexes in Charlotte. You know, if this neighborhood ever does peak development interest, and I suspect it, who knows what the story will be, but if it ever does, that one, you know, we've documented it. And here's a contemporary. I wanted to grab this. I called it a mid-century. I guess it's a mid-century shed, but to me it feels more like an 80s contemporary or a very late 70s contemporary. You see these more in the part of the state, Chapel Hill, where they build them, and they're great on the inside, even in Durham. Great light. Those skylights capture stuff, and they're airy. But I mean, to look at them with that wood siding and stuff, it's just reflective of a different time when building materials weren't necessarily as abundant. All right, now we're going to take a look at some ranches. Again, this is in 50s neighborhood, so there's going to be some showpiece ranches. Look at the door on this one. So this is another corner lot ranch. I love the side with the overhang with the eaves. I love that it has multiple chimneys. It's 2 floors, so it's a raised ranch. Raised ranch is the type of ranch form that I was more commonly exposed to in New England. We had our ranch neighborhoods, but the nicer ranch neighborhoods. Oh, look at this tree, by the way. I mean, this is an amazing crepe myrtle. Typically tended to be raised ranch neighborhoods. And it was always interesting because you go in the front door and it'd be like, pick a staircase, any staircase. You want to pick the up one. The more funds, you go up the stairs. And here's a ranch that's a Spanish-style colonial. I think that it does better on the camera than it does in person. I think that's a good thing. I love the cloisters there, but it goes back. I've said in another video, they made ranches in all styles, and here's a um, Spanish colonial style ranch. I love the cloisters. Just reminds me of uh, Morocco or something, Granada. I don't quite know. Um, and it's huge. I wasn't able to film this one in 30 seconds. Um, it looks like they're doing some landscaping work now and restoring it. I hope it's successful. Here's a ranch that's big. It's painted white. The gentleman I was chatting with says the people come into this neighborhood, flippers he called them. They'll buy a home, they'll paint it white and try to resell it. And here's an example of one. It's big though. I mean, you can see that picture window. It's behind a tree, so it's probably kind of dark in their living room. But here's another big ranch. They have that hedge in front of their picture window. And the door, it looks like they stripped it down and painted it brown. I don't know. I think a red door would give it a lot of pop. Make it pop, but it's a cool yard, big ranch, big house. Here's one that is under renovation. I don't know what the story is with it. Maybe it is. I like the ivy growing on the side. I think that's a nice touch. I'm really into living walls right now. I'm doing that with my own home, and it's helping keep the house cool at sunset. But again, original glass. So getting back to my high school experience, it was always cold. We had those single pane glasses, and they were always cold. But throwing some double pane glass, who knows? Here's another one. Hedges. It looks like there's a walkway in front. Dappled sunlight. Just big. Big ranches, acre lots. And it's pretty well. It has good screening behind a big magnolia tree year round. Here's your Georgian colonial Greek. Oh, this is a Greek revival ranch. So they have a ranch. They put a temple front on the front of it. Now it's a Greek revival. I'd call it a Greek revival. Struggling to figure out where the picture window is. Maybe it's off the back. It slopes down, so I can imagine that like in the fall when the leaves turn, there's really some interesting vignettes, natural vignettes to contemplate. I have to imagine the little savanna forest in the front is nice too in terms of shading and bird songs. This is a more modest ranch. I like the chimney on the top and the chimney cover. Big picture window. Again, if you want to be playful and funky, you can. I guess the door matches the trim, so that's good. Everything matches. Here, look at that glass on the front. It's so smooth. I love it. And the door is kind of a playful 50s color. I like the brick staircase walking up towards it. They're not hiding themselves behind those trees either. They're there, but I mean, you can look in. I doubt very many people do because traffic's so light. And look at that foliage scape behind them. And finally, I don't know if finally, but here's a great ranch. Look at that yellow door. Look at that yellow door. Look at the bushes adjacent to the garage on the right. They're just such nice scale. I love how the shadows play on the brick. And the windows that they've installed, like how they're dark, they're probably good at temperature maintenance. And yeah, I mean that's sort of to me the classic ranch. It's very simple, and I love it. It's great. This one, it has that hip roof, shutters, the garage off the side, blue door, stereotypical. Oh, you got a direct TV dish on the roof so that's good. They can get all the channels in digital. I think like with some landscaping, I could look at the one we were just looking previous, but that crepe myrtle's in full bloom, and that is splendid. All right, let's look at my favorite split levels now. I do love a split level. This one's kind of hidden, but we can see the pavilion off the side, adjacent to the garage. So you walk into the pavilion and welcome home. That's kind of nice. Fun door, fun wreath on the door. Interesting bushes again. Looks like they have some banana leaves in front of it, and the split levels in the basement. You have the master suite and maybe the office upstairs with the kids. Bathrooms on both floors. I think it offers the livability of a raised ranch, but you don't have to choose which stairs to go up when you get in. That can be a good thing in my opinion. Here's another split level. Looks like they painted it white. I wonder if those ceilings on that right side go all the way up to where that roof line is. If so, those are like cathedral ceilings. It's probably a really cool place in the summer. And here's here's one. I mean, use your imagination when you look at that one. That tree, in my opinion, that's blocking the picture window would have to be handled. But otherwise, I mean, if you're worried about privacy, you can put in a screen in the front with some bushes or something, and you change out some of those windows, and I don't know, I can see it. And the Charlotte motif, the barn style split level, which they're now that I know they're there, I look for them and they're everywhere in Charlotte. I'd never seen them anywhere else. But so you have your barn again, split level, master suite in the bottom, kids up top. Although this one, if you have the high ceilings, maybe you flip it, put the kids in the basement. But then garage off the far side, you walk in from your garage to the mudroom, laundry room with your kitchen, living area, eating area all in one. Really well integrated living. And here's a raised ranch that is, or a split level rather, that's under reconstruction. Um, I just figured I'd document it. This neighborhood has Colonials in the 50s. Folks built Colonials too. It's a classic. This one is nice. Splendor, opulence, 50s style. Um, so back home, when they looked like this, they were typically apartment buildings, and they were huge. The apartments themselves were great. Um, you know, the fact that like someone just chose to make that their residence with that sort of style architecture, I'm sure it's very spacious and very pleasant to live in. Um, I saw the folks doing the landscaping. It was a family in front of this. I wanted to capture it. So this is more like the colonials that I would grow up around in New England. You'd have on the right-hand side a bonus room. It looks like they have a left-hand side bonus room as well. Right-hand side, left-hand side. So they have the main one with the staircase right in front of the door. You go upstairs, and then living room downstairs, dining room on the other side, bedrooms up the side. This one looks like one they might have put up in the 80s. Big garage, sort of. I almost put it as a postmodern, but colonials can be a postmodern form. Um, here's our other notables. We have, I don't know, just a Cape Cod, big lawn. I painted it white. Nice cars in the garage. I like the topiaries on the step stool too, the stoop. That's a cool porch. That is a cool porch. It's getting a lot of sunlight. That's the only, but like in the afternoon sunset, be a nice place to drink some Arnold Palmer's. And here's another notable one. Looks like it has a lot of additions off of it. It could be, got dormers and stuff. This is what gets built now out in the far-flung neighborhoods. And they're very livable. You drive in, you have your mudroom, your garage. Upstairs you live. Downstairs you have just kind of a big front to back open concept. They're very livable. Here's a ranch that looks like it's had some additions done to it off the front. If you bump the front out of a ranch, um, that front room can be quite spacious. You can get like a 12-person sectional in there and have nice gatherings. So I can imagine that's what the architect was thinking there. All right, now we have the proposed Silver Line Conference Station by scooter. So just down the road, probably about 200 meters down the road from one of the Burtonwood entrances on the other side of East Meck. There's the Edge City Brewery, and this is adjacent to the Independence Boulevard Expressway. The state right now is looking into extending the expressway of Independence further out to the town of Matthews, which could be good. I don't really have an opinion on it, except I think it'll cause more traffic. Not that's a bad thing. It's what it is. It's not going to solve the traffic problem. But what they're also doing is they're talking about putting the blue line down Independence, and folks have already. Well, I don't know what is going on, but this is going to be in this general area. I don't know where particularly, but this is where the conference street is. So there's big parking lots now for these stores. Hawthorne's Pizza, they have a location in Plaza, or was it in Elizabeth that I'll go to from time to time. I haven't been to this one, but I have been to Edge City Brewery, and it's okay, pretty decent. Um, and yeah, we have these new style apartment buildings, contemporary apartment buildings. I don't know how big they are. If they're one bedroom, two bedroom, three bedroom. But you got to think in a world where there's robo taxis and light rail, maybe all that space that's dedicated to parking cars could just be dedicated to parks. At which point that becomes like a luxury lifestyle. But I mean, that's not yet. I mean, that's not anytime soon. But you can dream anyway. Dreaming's free. And now we're going through probably 1960s style shopping mart. So you can see the Independence Expressway there. Independence used to be just like a boulevard, a federal highway with stoplights everywhere. And it used to tag uptown and even the south end. It's a little different now. But the scars of the old Independence are featured prominently in most of the videos that I shoot. So yeah, big shopping development right here. But it's loud. Independence, I mean, you get, that's the federal highway. You get semi-trailers downshifting in here, stuff like that. So, I mean, if it ever becomes like transit-oriented development, it'd be great if they built apartment buildings right up to the where the sidewalks are, because what that would do effectively is block the road noise. You'd still have the road noise from Monroe though, but it would block a lot of the road noise, which would make this whole area quieter. Truth be told, by the time you're this far away from from the 74, it's not as noticeable anyway, but it is right next to an interstate. But what's that John Mellencamp song? Ain't That America? He's got an interstate in his front lawn and thinks, God, it's so good. It's not an interstate, it's a federal highway, but the big thing is, right, like, as long as people have a claim on it. If you pay in the system, you go to work, you live where you live, you're, in my opinion, you're entitled to a claim. And I just by the skin of my teeth was able to buy a house, so I'll have a claim. But like a lot of the millennials out there and the Zers, I mean, I just don't know how it's going to work for them, unless, because a lot of them living in apartments, we want that, right? It's a good thing, it's sustainable. But we just have to find a way that, like, for them to somehow participate and not just pay rents, but also own, so that they have a nest egg to fall back on beyond just Social Security. But who knows, maybe that's the solution, is to fix Social Security. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, this is a big, this is big. We've been riding the scooter around for a while, and it's going and it's going and it's going. I mean, I think we've been on 3 or 4 pretty massive blocks at this point. I don't know how many acres it is, but it looks like it could have been a couple farms, maybe 2 or 3 farms back around the turn of the 20th century. This road here, I believe, is Rama Road, so that continues. It continues, I don't know where, kind of like down to Providence, and we got to cross the street there. Now we're still in the development. I just crossed the street, but again, I think I get downranked, so we can see some townhouses going in. It's kind of fun. I think there's a grocery store around here. I'm not sure. I think there's a Lidl. I have to double check. But I mean, there's so much asphalt on top of it though, right? Like, I was there first thing in the morning and it was okay. I was starting to get pretty sweaty by this point. In the winter, it's probably nice to have this much like solar retention, but it's tough in the summer. Hopefully when those trees grow in, you'll get the best of both worlds. But we're coming to the end of our journey. So thank you for listening if you made it this far. I hope you've enjoyed a little tour of the Monroe Road recorder. Check you later.